Today we begin the 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Krishna Book, Chapter 9. Mother Yasoda binding Lord Krishna, that's the chapter title in Krishna Book. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Mother Yasoda binds Lord Krishna.
Chapter summary. While Mother Yashoda was allowing Krishna to drink her breast milk, she was forced to stop because she saw the milk pan boiling over on the oven. The maidservants being engaged in other business, she stopped allowing Krishna to drink from her breast and immediately attended to the overflowing milk pan. Krishna became very angry because his mother's behavior and devised a means of breaking the pots of yogurt. Because he created this disturbance, Mother Yashoda decided to bind him. These incidents are described in this chapter.
So this chapter goes up to when Krishna wakes up in the morning. Before he wakes up, Mother Yasoda, she rises early out of the bed and decides to start her household duties. She first pushes the bed a little bit to see if Krishna's going to wake up. He turns over and closes his eyes again. So she goes and starts churning the butter and singing beautiful songs about Krishna.
Child Krishna displayed his universal form to Mother Yashoda when he opened his mouth to show that he wasn't eating dirt. Therefore, when Mother Yashoda bound his belly with rope, she bound the entire universe. Actually, Krishna allowed her to bring the entire creation under her control, although it is not possible to bind the omnipotent Lord. Therefore, Vaishnavacharyas accept this pastime as the most sublime expression of Vatsalya Rasa, just as the Ras Leela pastime is the supreme expression of Madhurya Rasa. By Krishna's acceptance to be bound, we can understand that this pastime is inconceivable to mundane logic and reason. This is the mood here.
So the Acharyas give many commentaries on this particular Leela, and as we go through page by page, we'll hear what they have to say about why Mother Yasoda felt it was necessary to bind her son, how Krishna reacted to it, and how there was a whole paradigm change in the relationship between mother and son and father and son after this Leela.
One day, the maidservants being engaged in other work, Mother Yashoda was churning the yogurt into butter herself. And in the meantime, Krishna came and requested her to allow him to suck her breast milk. Of course, Mother Yashoda immediately allowed him to do so. But when she saw that the hot milk on the oven was boiling over, and therefore she immediately stopped allowing Krishna to drink the milk of her breast and went to stop the milk on the oven from overflowing. Srimad Bhagavatam chapter summary.
So after Mother Yasoda saw that Krishna was still sleeping in his bed, it was early in the morning, that particular day, Rohini and Balaram had been invited to go to the house of Upananda, which was quite some distance from their house. So they weren't present. So Rohini sent her maidservants to assist Mother Yasoda. That's because it was a very special day. It was the day of Diwali. There's always a lot of extra housework to do on Diwali. You want to prepare a lot of sweets and make lights to light up your house at night. So Mother Yasoda started early, and the first thing she had to do was take the buttermilk, that's the yogurt mixed with water, and churn it to make butter. Then from that butter they could make ghee and so many other preparations. So she doesn't just churn silently. Mother Yasoda is so absorbed in Krishna and all of his beautiful pastimes that as she's churning, she makes up songs about him and she sings those songs to herself. So when Krishna heard those songs, he began to wake up.
Krishna, however, having been interrupted in his business of sucking the breast, was very angry. He took a piece of stone, broke the churning pot, and entered a room where he began to eat the freshly churned butter. When Mother Yashoda, after attending the overflowing milk, returned and saw the pot broken, she could understand that this was a work of Krishna. Therefore she went to search for him. When she entered the room, she saw Krishna standing on the ulukhala, a large mortar for grinding spices. Having turned the mortar upside down, he was stealing butter hanging from a swing and was distributing the butter to the monkeys. Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7.
So when Krishna woke up, he rubbed his eyes and he looked around and he thought, where is my mother? Why isn't she in bed with me? Her first duty is to feed me milk. So he started to cry. And then he went to find his mother. He heard her singing. And what did he do? He grabbed the churning rod so she couldn't churn anymore. And after grabbing the churning rod, he then grabbed onto her arm, grabbed onto the yogurt pot, and with his foot, he took one step onto the base of the yogurt pot and got himself into her lap. And she began to feed him milk. But because she was busy in the household duties, she had also put milk on the stove to cook. And that was very special milk. We'll hear about that milk. The cows that she has, and why she was making that milk specially for Krishna. So when she had to run to the oven, or the chula, where the milk was boiling, her first duty, because as a pure devotee, everything she has, everything she does, everything she thinks, everything she says, is just for her little Krishna. So that means that although Krishna was in her lap, she also had to take care of all of the paraphernalia that related to Krishna's service. So she couldn't just sit there when she heard that the milk was overboiling. She had to put the Supreme Lord down to take care of his milk. So he got angry because he was playing as a little child. Although he's free from all the three modes of material nature, he got angry, he started to bite his lip, and he decided, now's the time my mother has neglected me, I'm going to do some mischief.
As soon as Krishna saw his mother had come, he immediately began to run away, and Mother Yashoda began to follow him. After going some distance, Mother Yashoda was able to catch Krishna, who, because of his offense, was crying. Mother Yashoda, of course, threatened to punish Krishna if he acted that way again, and she decided to bind him with rope. Unfortunately, when the time came to knot the rope with which she wanted to bind him was short by a distance equal to the width of 2 fingers. When she made the rope longer by adding another rope, she again saw that it was short by 2 fingers. Again and again she tried, and again she found the rope was too short by 2 fingers. Summary.
So when Mother Yasoda returned from putting the milk off of the stove, she saw that the yogurt pot had been broken in a very special way. Because the type of mischief Krishna did was, we have what's called a silbata. Silbata is used for grinding the grains, grinding spices. There's a big flat stone and a small stone on top that you hold in your hands to grind. He took that upper stone and he aimed it at the bottom of the yogurt pot. Because if you hit the bottom of the pot, you can't hear it when it breaks. If you hit the top, the air is there, so there's a vibration. So he hit the bottom, and all the yogurt came out all over them. And it wasn't just ordinary yogurt because she was churning it. It was buttermilk. That means it was very loose. Buttermilk, chach. So it went all over the whole floor. So he was looking for butter. The butter wasn't there because she was still churning. So he walked right through that chach. His feet got all wet. and he started to make footprints into the next room where the butter was hanging. Then he turned this ulukula upside down to get to the butter pot that was hanging from the rope. He got that, and then he went outside because he was afraid Mother was going to come, and he started to feed the monkeys. So when Mother Yasoda came and saw this trail of mischief, the pot was broken, the yogurt was all over the floor, the footprints, she could follow them exactly where he had gone. She knew he was guilty. If he had stayed there, then he could have made up a good lie that, oh, when you were going, your ankle bells hit the pot cracked. So many lies he could have made up then. But because she saw his footprints, he knew he was guilty. She knew he was guilty. So then she followed him, and she had a stick in her hand. And he was looking everywhere to make sure she wasn't coming because he was guilty. He was busy feeding the monkeys and looking from behind when she was going to come. When she did come and he saw the stick in her hand, he ran in fear of her. And she chased after him. Now this is the first time that Mother Yasoda sees what type of mischief he does in other people's houses. Because during the daytime, he would go out with all the little boys his age. And their only activity was what type of mischief they could do. They would go, because by that time all the cowherd men and the cows were out grazing. So there were calf barns, calf sheds. The calves stayed behind. And along with the calves, there were also goats. So the little boys, they liked to imitate their fathers. Of course, that's very natural. And the fathers, what would they do early in the morning? They would milk the cows. But the cows weren't there. So what the boys would do is, they would milk the goats. And they would get a little bit of milk from the goats. And they would let all the calves loose so they could come to their mothers, the goats, you know. So the calves would be running all around, they'd be milking the goats, and then all types of mischief they would do. They would just be looking which house they could go into. And every time the gopis would come, they would come singly, they would come in a group to complain about Krishna. Mother Yasoda insisted these are all lies. My little boy could never do anything like that. But now in her own home, she saw the type of mischief that they were complaining about. He broke the pot, he stole the butter, he fed the monkeys, even the crows came, they were eating the butter also. And he was looking around because he knew he was guilty. So she decided she starts to chase him. And this is the first time ever that she's chased Krishna. And he doesn't stay in the house, he runs out of the house, all over the neighborhood. And she's chasing him with the stick. So long as he doesn't turn around, he can run fast. But he turns around to look and see if she's still there, and then she grabs him. She can catch him then. When she catches him, he's so scared. The tears are coming out of his eyes. He rubs his face to get the tears off, and the mascara goes all over his face. It makes him more beautiful. And Mother Yasoda sees that he's really afraid of her. He's afraid of her stick. He's afraid she might beat him. So she throws the stick away because she doesn't want to give him any trauma. And then she starts chastising him. She said, "You're just like the monkeys. These are your relatives. That's why you take so much care in feeding them." And he says to her, "Well, if they're my relatives, I'll leave home and I'll go live in the forest with them." So then Mother Yasoda, she got scared. She thought, if I leave him like this, because I'm not going to hit him with the stick, I'm not going to beat him, then he might actually go into the forest and I won't be able to find him because I'll be busy with my housework. So it's better that I tie him up. Then just for a little while, and then when I finish with my housework, I'll let him loose. So that was why she got the decision to tie him up. And the ropes that she tied him with, they weren't heavy ropes. She took the ribbon out of her hair to tie around his waist. She thought that was long enough. She's just a little boy. Take the ribbon from her hair, tie it around his waist. But it was 2 inches too short. So then she took the other ribbon out of her hair, tied that to it, still 2 inches too short. Then by that time, all the neighbors had come. They were all watching and laughing. They gave her their ribbons. As many ribbons as she tied on, always 2 inches too short. So the acharyas explain that 1 inch is parishrama. The other inch is kripa. Parishrama means Mother Yasoda was endeavoring so hard to tie up her little son because she didn't want him to run away into the forest. And when Krishna saw that she was perspiring, she was struggling like anything to tie him up out of concern for him, then by his mercy, he allowed her to bind him. So she tied his waist, and then she asked the maidservants to bring thicker ropes. And with the thicker ropes, she bound him to the grinding mortar. So 2 times. Once, she bound him by the waist, and we know what's inside of his waist, because he had just shown her the entire universe is in there. So she bound the entire universe, and then she bound that person who contains the entire universe to the grinding mortar.
Thus she became very tired, and Krishna, seeing his affectionate mother so tired, allowed himself to be bound. Now, being compassionate, he did not show her his unlimited potency. After Mother Yashoda bound Krishna and became engaged in other household affairs, Krishna observed 2 Yamalarjuna trees, which were actually Nalakuvar and Manigriv, 2 sons of Kubera who had been condemned by Narad Muni to become trees. Krishna, by his mercy, now began to proceed toward the trees to fulfill the desire of Narad Muni. Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter summary.
So after Mother Yasoda, this was a distance from the house because he had been running all over the palace grounds. He was running to the gate of the city, of the town, to run out of the gate. So she tied him up, and she asked the young boys, because Krishna wasn't alone, the boys were there watching. While he was crying, very pitiably crying, because he was so afraid Mother Yasoda would punish him and beat him, while he was crying in front of her, and then he would look over at his friends and laugh at them. Then he would go back and cry again and then laugh at them. So he was just playing tricks. So the boys were all standing there laughing, but they didn't want to get too close because they didn't want to get in trouble too. So they were at distance. So Mother Yasoda asked these boys that you keep an eye on him. I'm just going to go clean up the mess, do my household work, and then I'll come back and untie him. So the boys were all there. And that was when Krishna, now just see how tricky he is. Here, this little ribbon is tying his waist. He's strong enough to pull the entire mortar over to the trees that were in the courtyard. It was just at the gate of Nanda Maharaja's house, because that was part of Narada Muni's blessing to them, that you'll take birth as 2 big Arjun trees. Arjun trees are very strong roots. You can see them growing here. You'll take birth as 2 trees in Nanda Maharaja's courtyard, and Krishna will liberate you by getting his darshan. So he didn't untie the rope, but he was strong enough to pull that ulukul. I can never pronounce it. Yeah. Ulukul. Between the 2 trees and pull the trees down. So the little boys were watching him do it. And the sound of the ulukul being dragged on the ground was kar 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 kar, when a wooden thing gets pulled on the ground. And when he pulled that it was not exactly straight, it was tilted. When he pulled that ulukul between the two trees, the trees got pulled down and they fell down with such a thunderous sound, kat, and all of Braj could hear it. Even the men in the pasturing grounds, they could hear it. First, everyone fell unconscious. It was as if nobody was in Braj when they heard that sound, because there was no rain, there was no wind, there was no reason for trees to fall down. And when they heard the trees falling down, they couldn't understand what happened. So they were all astonished. And then they started running to the place where the sound came. And there was Krishna in between the two trees and all the little boys standing around him. So Nanda Maharaj, he also ran at that time. Mother Yasoda was in the house. Nanda Maharaj came. He immediately untied his son and he asked him, "What happened? What happened? Who did this to you?" "My mother did it." And Nanda Maharaj was so disgusted. How could she do such a thing to our son? So he picked him up, he put Krishna in his lap, and then he asked the boys, "What happened?" And then the boys told him. He pulled the ulukul, the trees fell down, 2 golden men came out of the trees. They started offering obeisances to Krishna. Then Krishna blessed them and they flew up into the sky. Yeah, sure. So Nanda Maharaj didn't believe any of it. But some of the other cowherd men believed it, because Nanda Maharaj, he was just thinking, well, Gargamuni told me this boy has special powers, but this story I can't believe. But some of them believed it. So then he had Krishna in his lap, and again, because of this catastrophe that almost happened again, he called the Brahmins. He had them do prayers and hymns and so many mantras to protect his son. He gave them charity. They had a celebration. The whole time, Krishna was sitting in his lap. He didn't want to go back to Mother Yasoda anymore. He just wanted to stay with his father. So, but Krishna only drank breast milk. He was hungry. So what did Nanda Maharaj do? He fed him nice hot cow's milk with sugar. And Mother Yasoda, she was hiding in the house. She was so ashamed. She was hiding, she wouldn't come out. For 3 days she didn't come out. And Nanda Maharaj kept saying, "You go to your mother, everything's all right." Then Krishna, he said, "No, I'm not going to go to my mother anymore. I'm just going to stay with you." He said, "Well, what will you eat? You only drink your mother's milk?" He said, "That's all right. I'll just drink cow's milk with sugar." So then Nanda Maharaj, he realized that this was very serious. So he wanted to test the love Krishna had for his mother. So he said to Krishna, he said, "I will take a stick, I will beat your mother mercilessly because she did this to you." And then Krishna, no, don't beat her, don't beat her. So then he realized he still loved his mother. So then, by that time Rohini had come back with Balaram. Rohini picked up Krishna, took him into the house, and he went to Mother Yasoda, sat in her lap and drank her milk. So that's we're just at the summary now. Now we'll go through further details of what happens in this Leela.
By the quality of Sri Krishna's love, Bhakta-vatsala, the impossible becomes possible. To honor the word of his pure devotee Narada Muni, who gave the benediction that Nalakuvar and Manigriv would see the Lord face to face, the Lord actually delivers these boys. Did they ever do anything to deserve this? No. It is simply causeless mercy. Krishna is bound by the love of Sri Narada. This is his quality of Bhakta-vatsala. Therefore, he utilizes the wooden grinding mortar to pull down the 2 trees that are actually the 2 brothers by the mercy of the pure devotee Narada Muni. they received the mercy of the Lord. Similarly, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we can receive the same benediction.
So now we hear a second example, yesterday and today. Yesterday we heard about how Lord Brahma benedicted Drona and Dara to have Krishna as their little son and enjoy his childhood pastimes so the world could be liberated. So now Narada Muni, as he was wandering, he came to the portion of the heavenly planets where Kuvera lives. And Kuvera's two sons, Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, just like most rich men's sons, they take their father's wealth and they engage in sense gratification. So they were enjoying with young girls, they were intoxicated, they were bathing in a lake, and they were naked with the girls. So as Narada Muni passed by, the girls, out of shyness, they immediately covered themselves. But because the two boys were so intoxicated, they didn't cover themselves. So Narada Muni cursed them. Oh, you like to stand naked? Then become trees. So then they came to their senses. They begged for his mercy. And he blessed them that I can't retract it. You'll become trees for 1,000 years, but you'll take birth as trees in Nanda Maharaj's courtyard. You'll have darshan of Krishna, and then you'll be liberated and become devotees. So by Narada Muni's blessings only, because they didn't engage in any type of devotional service, just by the blessing of a pure devotee, they were able to get Krishna's darshan and attain liberation from whatever sinful activities they had performed. So this example is given, this is from, in the Damodar Ashtakam. Satyavrata Muni, he wrote the Damodar Ashtakam. And Sanatana Goswami, he wrote the Tika to the Damodar Ashtakam. So Sanatana Goswami is explaining how by the mercy of a pure devotee, because that pure devotee has bound Krishna with his love, Krishna is obligated to fulfill the benediction that the pure devotee gives. So therefore, if we get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, Krishna will be obligated also to give us his mercy.
Once upon a time, seeing that her maidservant was engaged in different household duties, Mother Yashoda personally took charge of churning butter. And while she churned butter, she sang the childhood pastimes of Krishna and enjoyed thinking of her son. Krishna Book, Chapter 9. Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued. One day, when Mother Yashoda saw that all the maidservants were engaged in other household affairs, she personally began to churn the yogurt. While churning, she remembered the childish activities of Krishna, and in her own way, she composed songs and enjoyed singing to herself about all those activities. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, 1 and 2.
So this is the benefit of village life. Although Brajeshwari, Nandarani, Yashoda Mai was the queen of all of the inhabitants of Braja, she still engaged in household duties such as churning butter and grinding grains, milking the cows, everything, just like any of the other women. And Prabhupada explains that these activities make a woman healthy and keep her mind pure. If a woman is not engaged in household duties, she gossips and she becomes sick. So Prabhupada recommended that all women engage in these household activities of churning butter, grinding the grains, and all the other things that women do for preparing the milk preparations in the house.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, quoting from the Vaishnava Toshani of Srila Sanatana Goswami, says that the incident of Krishna's breaking the pot of yogurt and being bound by Mother Yashoda took place on the Deepavali day or Deepamalika. Even today in India, this festival is generally celebrated very gorgeously in the month of Kartik by fireworks and lights, especially in Bombay. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, 1 and 2.
One time we were with Prabhupada in Bombay on Diwali night. And this is 1974. And Prabhupada was lecturing. It was just the Jompuri that we had for Radharasa Bihari, a tin roof temple. And Prabhupada was sitting on his Vyasasan. He was speaking about the teachings of Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti. And he was describing the qualities of a saintly person, Titikshava Karunika. And while this was going on, while the lecture was going on, it was Diwali night. And as Prabhupada says here, especially in Bombay, Diwali is very gorgeously celebrated. So what was that gorgeous? There were so many fireworks going on everywhere, everywhere. Not for 1 second was there a moment of silence. And Prabhupada was speaking on top of all of this because it was a celebration. They were celebrating Ram's return to Ayodhya. So he didn't become annoyed at all. Every time there was a huge explosion, he would stop speaking and then he would say, Titikshava, we must be tolerant. So here in Braja, as all Vaishnavas do, they celebrate Diwali very grandly. So they were preparing for that. Mother Yasoda, when the men go out to herd the cows very early in the morning before even taking bath, even Krishna Balaram, when they got older, they would go out to the Goshala to milk the cows. It has to be done early in the morning. And they would, just by seeing Krishna, the cows would give their milk. So it was very important that he went there to the Goshala. And then they would come back, bathe, dress, and have their breakfast. So then, after having breakfast and resting a little while, then Krishna and Balaram, just like their fathers did, they would go and herd the cows. And while Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys and all the cowherd men were out herding the cows, the women would stay at home and they would make all the milk preparations. They'd have to churn the butter, they'd have to take that butter and make it into ghee, and then make so many different preparations from that for when the men come home for cooking, so that, especially for Krishna, they would have so many nice things to offer to him. So this is the lifestyle in the village. And that way everyone remains healthy and happy. They work hard, that parishram. They work very hard for pleasing Krishna.
It is to be understood that amongst all the cows of Nanda Maharaj, several of Mother Yashoda's cows ate only grasses so flavorful that the grasses would automatically flavor the milk. Mother Yashoda wanted to collect the milk from these cows, make it into yogurt and churn it into butter personally. Since she thought that this child Krishna was going to the houses of neighboring Gopas and Gopis to steal butter, because he did not like the milk and yogurt ordinarily prepared. A report to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, 1 and 2.
So there were 8 cows, and they were called Padmaganda. We'll hear a little bit about them later. And Mother Yasoda, she would personally take care of these cows. She would also milk the cows. She would take that milk, make yogurt. From that yogurt, make butter. And these cows were very special. They were fed very special aromatic grasses, so that their milk would also be aromatic. Now, when Prabhupada was sick here in 1977, by that time, 2 years before, he had asked Gunarnava to start a Goshala. He gave Gunarnava 2 assignments. One is to construct the Goshala, the Gurukula, and number 2 was to start the Goshala. So Gunarnava and Bhagaji, they went and bought 2 cows from Govardhan and brought them here. And because we didn't have land at that time for a Goshala, they kept the cows in the Gurukula because the Gurukula was under construction. So right after Prabhupada left, after the grand opening, Prabhupada wrote a letter to say that we've just been donated a patch of land on the Parikrama Marg, and you can make that into the Goshala. So the cows were moved there. Within 2 years, Gunarnava was able to accumulate over 100 cows. And that way, the cow's milk was able to come to feed the deities here, Krishna, Balaram, Radhesham, and Gaurnitai. So everything was quite successful. Then when Prabhupada became ill, he wasn't eating. And when he came back the final time, he called Gunarnava and he said, I want you to find me a black cow that has not a single touch of white or brown, purely black from top to bottom, and I'll only drink that milk. So there are particular cows that give very particular types of milk. So Prabhupada let us know at that time the value of a completely black cow. So again, Gunarnava and Bhagaji went all over the whole district. They finally found the cow. And Prabhupada liked that milk so much that they kept that cow right here. They put hay, and right in front of Prabhupada's house, the cow was there. And then any time Prabhupada wanted milk, they would just go out and milk the cow. So one night, because the devotees were taking turns doing kirtan for Prabhupada, very gently, Gunarnava, it was his turn, it was nighttime, and he was singing Hare Krishna, but he was feeling so much love for Prabhupada. So, although they just chanted Hare Krishna, Prabhupada was still sitting at that time. He was sitting on his bed. He hadn't come to the stage where he could only lie down. So he was sitting and his legs were hanging over the edge of the bed. Suddenly Gunarnava, from his heart, he just yells out, Jai Srila Prabhupada! And then he starts singing again. So Prabhupada looked up and saw that it was Gunarnava in the room. And a few minutes later, he stops Gunarnava from singing, and he says to Gunarnava, it is by your mercy that I'm still alive, because you got that black cow for me. That milk is keeping me alive. And 3 or 4 times, Prabhupada said, it is by your mercy because of that cow. So we don't understand, at least I can't understand, the value of cow's milk. And different cows give different types of milk. So Mother Yasoda, she understood this. And therefore she had 8 of the finest cows to give the best milk to her son Krishna. And not just milk, but everything that he ate was made from the cow products of those Padmaganda cows.
These 8 specific cows were called Padmagandha, and their milk was as fragrant as a lotus flower. Just as swans live only on lotus stalks, so the cows ate only special grass. Mother Yashoda took particular care of these cows and used their milk to make special sweets for Krishna. She hoped that he would lose interest in the butter and yogurt from the houses of other gopis. In this way, she made an attempt to rectify his stealing habit from purport of Sri Damodar Ashtakam.
Mother Yasoda was trying her best to restrict her son from stealing from the other gopis' houses. But what she didn't understand was that the gopis actually enjoyed it when Krishna came to their house. It was their lila with him, that he would come, he would take their milk and butter, and he would make a mess in their house, and they would get to chase him and call him all kinds of names, and then they would get to come to Mother Yasoda and tell her about all of his mischief and his leelas. So this was their daily activities. They loved that Krishna came to their house, but they pretended to be angry. And Mother Yasoda, from her part, she thought, if I make everything nice enough in this house, in Krishna's house, then there won't be any need for him to go to other people's houses.
While churning the butter, Mother Yashoda was singing about childhood activities of Krishna. It was formerly a custom that if one wanted to remember something constantly, he would transform it into poetry or have this done by a professional poet. It appears that Mother Yashoda did not want to forget Krishna's activities at any time. Therefore, she poeticized all of Krishna's childhood activities, such as the killing of Putana, Aghasura, Shakatasura, and Trunavarta, and while churning the butter, she sang about these activities in poetic form. This should be the practice of persons eager to remain Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. This incident shows how Krishna conscious Mother Yashoda was. To stay in Krishna consciousness, we should follow such persons. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, 1 and 2.
This practice is still going on in Braja. We live in the city of Vrindavan. Vrindavan has become a city. But if you go to the villages, the simple village women, they can't read, they can't write, but they sing such beautiful songs about Krishna and his pastimes. And they know those songs by heart. And they teach those songs to their children. And such beautiful songs, and we can't remember them. They're in Brij Bhasha, we can hardly understand them, but they know them so well. And so Mother Yasoda, one of the qualities of a pure devotee is poetic. So she would make up her own songs and sing these songs about Krishna's pastimes. Then there are other types of poets. They're called the Magadas and the Sutas. They're all Brahmins. And Nanda Maharaj and other Vaishyas, also the Kshatriyas, they would have these Magadas and Sutas prepare songs about either their dynasty or the great activities that kings have done, things like that. Even for Nanda Maharaj, they would sing beautiful songs. And the whole Gopal Champu is these songs, many of these songs are there, that Jiva Goswami wrote, spoken by two of these Magadas and Sutas, that's Snigdha Kanta and Madhukanta, the two brothers, Brahmin brothers. And every evening, every morning and every evening, they would come to the home of Nanda Maharaj and sing and discuss the glories of Krishna's pastimes. So this is a common practice in Braj. It's still going on to this day. And if you just step outside of the city, you can hear these beautiful songs that the Braj ladies sing.
The end of her sari was tightly wrapped while she churned, and on account of her intense love for her son, milk automatically dripped from her breasts, which moved as she labored very hard, churning with two hands. The bangles and bracelets on her hands tinkled as they touched each other, and her earrings and breast shook. There were drops of perspiration on her face, and a flower garland which was on her head, scattered here and there. Krishna Book, Chapter 9.
So we'll read further this beautiful description of Mother Yasoda. For anyone who aspires to love Krishna in the mood of a mother, they can meditate on the beautiful bodily features of Mother Yasoda, because she's the perfection of motherly love for her son. So here we have Sukadev Goswami, Prabhupada's rendition of Mother Yasoda's beautiful features, how out of motherly affection, although her child was still sleeping, still the milk was flowing from her breasts, and she tied up her sari tightly so that she could do her housework and the sari wouldn't annoy her. She had flowers in her hair. Everything she did was for pleasing her little son. So she decorated herself very beautifully. She had bangles that tinkled, so Krishna would be attracted to the sound of the bangles and the ankle bells. And she dressed herself very nicely just so he would be happy. And in that way, Just as we hear more frequently about how the young gopis would dress themselves for Krishna's pleasure, so even the elderly gopis would dress themselves to make Krishna happy.
Dressed in a saffron yellow sari, with a belt tied about her full hips, Mother Yashoda pulled on the churning robe, laboring considerably, her bangles and earrings moving and vibrating, and her whole body shaking. Because of her intense love for her child, her breasts were wet with milk, her face, with very beautiful eyebrows, was wet with perspiration, and malati flowers were falling from her hair. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-3.
So it's a beautiful picture of a mother meditating on her son, making yogurt for him, making butter for him. Her whole life was just centered around Krishna. And so far as milk flowing from her breast, well, that's what happens when a mother gives birth to a child. By this time, how old is Krishna now? He might be 2 years old. He's more than 1 year old. He's running around now, doing mischief. He must be 2 years old at least. And still the milk was flowing. She had so much maternal affection for her son. Just like cows, a cow will continue to give milk so long as the calf is there. That's why the calf, you can go to our Goshala, even the older calves are brought before the mother cows at the time of milking, because as soon as the mother cow sees the calf, the milk starts to flow. So Mother Yasoda had such intense love for her son that just singing about him and remembering him, her milk began to flow.
Anyone who desires to be Krishna conscious in motherly affection or parental affection should contemplate the bodily features of Mother Yashoda. It is not that one should desire to become like Yashoda, for this is Mayavad. Either in parental affection or conjugal love, friendship or servitorship, in any way we must follow the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, not try to become like them. Therefore, this description is provided here. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-3.
So this is a warning that Srila Prabhupada gives us. We're hearing about the supreme maternal affection that Yashoda Mai has for her son Krishna. So it's not that we want to push Yashoda aside and become Yashoda. We want to become the servants of Mother Yashoda. In her house, there's so much service to do for Krishna. There's cleaning, there's butter churning, there's cooking, there's herding of the cows. These are all the servants of Nanda and Yashoda who want to serve them because Nanda and Yashoda, they're simply engaged in how to please their son Krishna. From the time of his birth, their whole life was centered around Krishna. And all of the servants, the maidservants and the gopas, they assisted Nanda and Yashoda in pleasing Krishna. So this is the mentality of a Vaishnava. Das das anudas. Just like we love Srila Prabhupada, we see what a great Vaishnava Srila Prabhupada is. It's not that we want to become Srila Prabhupada, we want to assist Srila Prabhupada. So that is Vaishnava mentality, to become the servant of the Vaishnava.
Advanced devotees must cherish this description, always thinking of Mother Yashoda's features, how she was dressed, how she was working and perspiring, how beautifully the flowers were arranged on her hair, and so on. One should take advantage of the full description provided here by thinking of Mother Yashoda in maternal affection for Krishna. Report to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-3.
Now for those devotees who don't have this Vatsalya rasa, who don't aspire to assist Mother Yasoda, it's very unfortunate because Mother Yasoda is such an elevated devotee. We should all aspire to assist Mother Yasoda in pleasing Krishna. All of the younger gopis, even Mother Yasoda, because she wanted Krishna to have the best prasadam prepared. So she heard that Srimati Radharani had a benediction from Durvasa Muni. How did she get that benediction? When she was just a little girl, just like all little children play, they were making things out of sand and dirt. They were pretending that they were sweets. And they fed these sweets to Durvasa Muni. And they were so sweet, actually. So he was very pleased with them. There are other pastimes also. They also went to his house and fed him and like that. So he gave her a benediction that anyone who eats whatever you cook will never suffer from disease. So when Mother Yasoda heard this, she requested Jatila to allow Radharani to come to their house every day to cook the breakfast prasadam for Krishna. So Radharani is also aspiring to assist Mother Yasoda in pleasing Krishna. So Radharani, her whole mentality was, how can I assist Mother Yasoda? So by Mother Yasoda's maternal affection, all of the gopis, all of the gopas got to serve Krishna because they all became her assistants.
Before this picturesque sight, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. He felt hungry, and out of love for his mother, he wanted her to stop churning. He indicated that her first business was to let him suck her breast and then churn butter later. Krishna Book Chapter 9. While Mother Yashoda was churning butter, Lord Krishna, desiring to drink the milk of her breast, appeared before her, and in order to increase her transcendental pleasure, he caught hold of the churning rod and began to prevent her from churning. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.4. Krishna was sleeping within the room, and as soon as he got up, he became hungry and went to his mother, wanting to stop her from churning and drink the milk of her breasts. She stopped her from moving the churning rod. Report to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.4.
So when Krishna was crying, he got out of his bed and he falteringly walked to his mother. You know, when a child cries, there's always a drama. So he's walking to his mother, she's singing, and he sees her churning the yogurt. So what does he do? He grabs with his two hands the churning rod, so he can't move then. Now the acharyas, they give a purport to this. Why didn't he just grab her and climb into her lap? No, he stopped her churning. So the acharyas explain that we read the scriptures to churn our love for Krishna and our knowledge about Krishna. And because Mother Yasoda's prem for Krishna was already so pure, she didn't have to churn any further. So Krishna stopped her churning so that she could then serve him by feeding him her breast milk. So this is the churning Leela, how he stopped her churning, and then because he was such a smart child, he figured out how to climb up onto her lap by grabbing her arm and then climbing onto the base of the yogurt pot, and then finally into her lap where he drank her milk.
Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap and pushed the nipples of her breast into his mouth. And while Krishna was sucking the milk, she was smiling, enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Suddenly the milk which was on the oven began to boil over. Just to stop the milk from spilling, Mother Yashoda at once put Krishna aside and went to the oven. Krishna Book Chapter 9. Mother Yashoda then embraced Krishna, allowed him to sit down on her lap, and began to look upon the face of Lord with great love and affection. Because of her intense affection, milk was flowing from her breast. But when she saw that the milk pan on the oven was boiling over, she immediately left her son to take care of the overflowing milk, although the child was not yet fully satisfied while drinking the milk of his mother's breast. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.5.
So here again the acharyas give explanation. There was a competition going on. Krishna wanted to drink milk, and Mother Yasoda wanted to provide that milk. So Krishna was just drinking and drinking, and Mother Yasoda was just providing the milk from her breast. And the competition was the milk going to run out, or was Krishna going to be satisfied? But Krishna wasn't satisfied. He was only half satisfied when Mother Yasoda noticed that the milk on the stove had started to boil over. Only half. So this milk is also very special. The milk is from the Padmaganda cows, and Mother Yasoda had put it onto the fire to boil. We boil milk. Prabhupada recommended that we let it rise 3 times. When we would boil the milk for Prabhupada, always 3 times, it would foam up and down, up and down. Then we would grind misri and pour the misri into the milk, and then we would pour it back and forth between 2 glasses to make it very foamy and very sweet. So there are so many different ways to prepare milk, make milk preparations, and Mother Yasoda had just started. The cows had just been milked. She got the milk from the cows and she put it onto the stove to boil it, to start the cooking. Now the milk was thinking, if Krishna becomes fully satisfied with the breast milk of Yashoda, then what is the use of our life? We might as well commit suicide. So then the milk overboiled, and also it was thinking that we're going through so much tapasya, being heated on this fire, but if Krishna is going to be fully satisfied with his mother's milk, then what is the use of our life? So then they decided to commit suicide and overflow into the fire itself. So when Mother Yasoda saw this, she wanted to save the milk. So 2 things were there. Krishna wasn't satisfied yet with that milk. At the same time, because the cow's milk was for Krishna's service, Mother Yasoda, she had to think in terms of priority. Although the Supreme Lord was sitting on her lap, all of the paraphernalia that she had to serve Krishna had to be protected. So she put the Supreme Lord down and she went to take care of the milk. She was going to come right back, but Krishna was too impatient.
Everything in the household affairs of Mother Yashoda was meant for Krishna. Although Krishna was drinking her breast milk of Mother Yashoda, when she saw that milk pan in the kitchen was overflowing, she had to take care of it immediately, and thus she left her son, who then became very angry, not having been fully satisfied with drinking the milk of her breast. Sometimes one must take care of more than one item of important business for the same purpose. Therefore, Mother Yashoda was not unjust when she left her son to take care of the overflowing milk. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.5.
So there are priorities, which has to be taken care of first. And Mother Yasoda felt that the milk boiling on the oven had to be taken care of first, so therefore she put Krishna down. But Krishna, because he was playing as a child, he got angry. And he got so angry, he decided, just like any little child that age, when they get angry, they decide to break something. They'll pick it up and they'll throw it down just to show their anger. So Krishna decided it's time for him to break something because Mother Yasoda has rejected him like this.
On the platform of love and affection, it is the duty of the devotee to do one thing first and other things later. The proper intuition by which to do this is given by Krishna. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tada me buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Bhagavad-Gita 10.10. In Krishna consciousness, everything is dynamic. Krishna guides the devotee in what to do first and what to do next on the platform of absolute truth. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.5. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad-Gita 10.10.
So that understanding is coming from Krishna within our heart. And Mother Yasoda, it's the duty of the devotee to do one thing first and other things later. Mother Yasoda, the intuition was coming from Krishna, that Mother Yasoda felt she had to take care of that milk. Prabhupada says here that in Krishna consciousness everything is dynamic. So the opposite of dynamic is static. And static means no movement. And dynamic means there's always a forward movement. So dynamic Krishna consciousness means that at every moment, Krishna is giving us this intuition or inspiration from within our heart, which service we should do first. And when we become purified, we can hear Krishna speaking to us, and that forward movement is that movement back to Him. We're never static in Krishna consciousness because Krishna is always telling us from second to second what He wants us to do within our heart. And that's all for today. We're right in the middle of this Leela. We'll continue tomorrow. Hare Krishna.